Okay, hello, hi. We're back and we're in Joshua Tree, California. It was a little bit of an intense journey getting here from New Mexico. My dog Moon decided that she has car anxiety after almost 7 months of traveling now, so that was fun. Not really. But we made it and we're here and it's been very beautiful so far, but we're settled now, so I thought that it would be time to make my second video. So hi, welcome. I've posted one video so far on this account, and it's gotten 27 views on YouTube. But I think that right now I'm at this point where I just want to post and I just want to create, even if nobody is watching. And I saw this video the other day. It was talking about why you should post on YouTube even if nobody is watching. And it was saying how it's kind of a little bit like a time capsule. That really resonated with me. So hello to future generations, my great-grandchildren, whoever may be watching this, 40, 50, 60 years down the line. I'm your great-grandma. That I think made me feel better about posting, because it is hard to create and post without any satisfaction of outcome. So anyways, I wanted to hop on to talk about all of the craziness that went down in my last job, and honestly just how that affected me and how it's still affecting me to this day. And I think that it was really hard for me to stick up for myself because I was always so scared of losing my job or people not liking me or people, thinking that I was asking for too much. And so I just made myself stay so small when I was in that industry. Teeny little baby. I always say that I reminded myself of a dog that had just gotten on its back, rolled over, and showed its belly, and then just kept getting kicked over and over and over again. But I just stayed like this the whole entire time. I really want to just chat about it because I think that it's something that I'm still processing, while also hopefully reaching someone that this could potentially help. And to get into it all, in case you haven't seen my last video where I spoke about the industry that I was in before I chose to leave, it was the spicy filmmaking industry. Yeah, let's get into that. Let's get into the story of how I got into that, what it looked like, and why I chose to leave. So back in COVID, I have an autoimmune disease, so I had a really hard time leaving the house for about 2 years during the peak of COVID. And I was a babysitter before. I had been a babysitter and a nanny for 3 or 4 years before COVID hit, and that was kind of my bread and butter. That's what I did. It worked. It was good money. I was happy with it. But then COVID came around and she said, "Nah, sit down and buckle up," because everybody knows what happened during COVID. Essentially, I ended up just in my little house by myself. The only reason we were able to afford to live there was because my grandpa owned an animal hospital, and he had a little house that was attached to the animal hospital that we lived in. And then my parents, when COVID first originally started hitting, decided to go down to Tennessee and kind of ride out COVID there. I decided to stay home where we were. Basically, one day my parents messaged me and were like, "Hey, we've decided that we're going to move to Tennessee. We really love it down here." And so they basically were like, "Deuces, good luck." And so I was left behind in the house, and we still had to pay rent to my grandpa. And so they said to me, "You can continue staying there, you just have to continue paying rent." And so I was like, okay, but I don't have a job. I don't have any income. I can't leave the house. What am I supposed to do? I saw that everybody was hopping onto social media and that people were making money from social media. So I was like, hey, okay, let me dip my toe in these waters and see what the hype is about. I don't have any money. I have this rent payment coming up that I can't pay. And so I saw that people were doing live streaming on some websites. And so I was like, okay, let me just try this out and see if it's something that I could make money from potentially. And so I started off doing that originally. and that account kind of just like blew up really fast, which I wasn't expecting. I think a lot of it was just luck. And I was doing that for about, I would say, 2 to 3 months maybe, before I kind of hit this wall of I cannot do this anymore, because the way that live streaming works is you are speaking live and interacting live, and I am someone that is not a very social person. So it became pretty draining for me pretty quickly. And so I kind of came to this realization of I can't do this anymore, but I also need money. And so I decided to walk away from it, and I decided I'm just going to try to figure something else out. I walked away for about a month before I realized I'm kind of stuck in this. I don't have any other ways to make money right now, and I have rent to pay, I have bills to pay, I have to buy groceries. I have 2 dogs. And so I went back to it. And then this woman, I'm just going to call her B, she reached out to me and she was like, hey, you know, I have this agency that I run with this guy, and all you have to do is create content and send it to us, and we'll handle the rest, essentially. So you won't have to speak with anybody, you won't have to live stream anymore, you won't have to do any of this stuff. You just have to create this content each month, send it to us, and then we'll handle the rest. And that was very enticing for me, because I was like, oh, I really am not enjoying this anymore. Like, maybe this is something that can help me to get out of the situation, but I'd never worked for an agency before. And so I kind of went back and forth, and I remember I said no originally, and then a month later I really hit that wall of like, I cannot do this anymore. I cannot drag myself in front of the camera and start a live stream one more time. And so I messaged her and I was like, hey, let's do it. And so I started working with her, and I'm just going to call him C, B and C. And C was the guy, and he came in really exuberant and excited and was very charismatic and messaging me saying that we're going to work great together. And he would always do the praying emoji and the 100% emoji, just like very out there. And I should have taken that a little bit as a red flag that he was so excited to start. But again, I was young. I couldn't do live streaming anymore, and this was really my only option. And so I started working with them, and I worked for them for about 3 years. And within those 3 years, that is when all of the craziness unfolded. I was working with them for 3 years, and just for context, with an ethical agency, a model takes home about 60 to 70%. And I was making, I think that's like around, let me just do the math, because I can't do that math in my head. 2%. I got around 2% of the revenue. And this is the thing. I knew that I was getting underpaid and that I was taking home way less than I should have been. But I was so scared to ask for more. I was so scared because I thought that if I asked for more, they were just going to drop me. And I didn't have anything else going for me at that time, and I was stuck inside during COVID. I couldn't leave. Like, I have really horrible immune issues. I've ended up in the hospital over a UTI. I've ended up in the hospital over strep throat. I don't have a healthy immune system, so I really was isolated during that time, and this was like my only way of getting income. But anytime that I thought about asking for more, I got genuinely sick to my stomach. Like, I shitting, crying, throwing up. Like, I could not for the life of me come to the table and say, hey, I think that I should be getting more money. Even though I saw how much money they were bringing in. And my accountant, he saw too. And he, I think for about 2 to 3 years while I was working with him, was like, you need to leave, you need to leave, you need to leave, you need to leave. But I was just so teeny tiny scared. Like, I just could not fathom leaving. Also because they owned, in my mind, my accounts. Like, I had no agency over my own accounts, even though they were under my social security number. They were under my ID. Like, my driver's license was attached to the accounts. Like, they were my accounts. They told me how it all worked, and they made me sign this fake contract that said that like they owned all of the content and that they owned the accounts. They started an Instagram account for me. Like every single social media account out there that is under that like persona was started by them, and all of the content that was posted on there was content that they gave me a content order for. Like I had no agency even over the content that I was making. And there are some like cringe, the content that is out there of me is so baffling to me because it is so not me. Like it is fully a character that was put on, and they marketed her as super young and super ditzy and la la la, and that just shows like how cucked I was for that agency, and also how people pleasing I was, because I literally rode dick metaphorically. I literally, in the sense of how I communicated with them and how I spoke with them, I was such a people pleaser. I never talked back. I never asked any questions. I just always was so friendly and outgoing and bubbly and just like really kissed ass until my lips fell off. There's this new term. Before it was the 3 trauma responses. It was fight, flight, or freeze. And now there's a new one that has just been coined recently, and it's called fawning. And essentially what fawning is, and I have it written down in my little journal because I'm really horrible at memorizing things, but the fawn response is a response to a threat by becoming more appeasing to the threat. Basically, as long as they are okay, I am okay. And it's called the please and appease response. And that is exactly what I was doing. I was pleasing and I was appeasing and I was kissing ass because I felt like if I spoke up, then I wouldn't be safe anymore. So my nervous system kept me small and kept me in a box because it was the only way that I felt like I could survive in that industry. I was their top earning model. I literally was their number 1 model in that agency that made the most amount of money. And I later came to find out that their whole agency was built upon my persona and my account. Like that was their number 1 account, but they just kept me so in the dark that I had no idea. And so I essentially did that for about 3 years that I was working for them. And then shit hit the fan. Like genuinely shit went down. I woke up one morning and I got a message from C, the guy who I thought owned the agency. And I don't even fully remember what the message said, but it was like before we were speaking on WhatsApp, and he was like, I need you to move over from WhatsApp to this other app. I think it was Telegram, because Telegram can like self-destruct the message like after like an hour or something like that. I'm pretty sure that it was Telegram. So he was like, move over from WhatsApp to Telegram because I need to like talk to you, but I need the message to delete itself immediately afterwards. And like, you can't share this with anybody. And so I was like, okay, like la la la, like just like not even questioning it, being like, what are you talking about? And so I went over, I created a Telegram account for him. He literally, I don't even know how to like put this into words. He said to me that essentially I was going to be introduced to these new people in the agency, and they were going to pay me a shit ton more because that's the pay that would be going to me. But I have to wire him money after they pay me for his cut of that amount, but I can't tell them that I'm wiring him and paying him extra money. And I said, okay. I literally was like, all right. Like I was so still afraid of him and afraid to be like, is that the amount that I'm supposed to be getting? But I just sealed them lips shut and shut my fucking mouth, and I didn't say anything. And all of this stuff transpired. We were messaging for like a week or 2 after that, and then he essentially was like, okay, we're leaving this agency and I'm starting a new agency and I want you to come over to this agency with me. And I was like, wait, but I thought that you owned this agency. What do you mean you're leaving this agency and starting a new agency? Like, isn't this your agency that we're speaking about? I didn't say that though. I was just thinking that. I still, again, shut my fucking mouth and sat pretty and messaged him back like super nicely. And he was like, okay, we're going to be moving over to this new agency and we need you to steal your accounts back from the website because they have your account right now and we need to steal it back. And I was like, can I even steal it back? Like, I didn't know that I had the power to steal it back. And he was like, oh yeah, like you just have to message the website with your ID and say, this is my account. I need you to change the login information. And I was like, I didn't know that I could do that. Like, I had no idea that that was even a thing. Like, I was so like on his team because I had gone through 3 years of that being our rapport and the rapport that I had built with him of me just like kissing ass. Like, what were you doing, Cameron? Like, anyway, I like knew in the back of my mind, like I knew that things were off and I knew that this was really weird and really sketchy, but I still was so scared to say something to him because I had like put on this performance for the past 3 years of my work relationship with him. And again, I have my trusty notebook out because I wish I could be that person that would do the research before an episode and then just be able to like spit facts verbatim, but I'm not that person. My brain does not work that way. But I had written, in fawning, we play pretend. We perform to avoid conflict. And that's what I was doing. I was performing my whole entire relationship with him. I was putting on a fake face, a fake smile, a fake personality to stay on his good side and to stay in his good graces because I felt that if I were the nice, lovely, appeasing, and pleasing model, that he would keep me on his team and that I would still be able to have a livelihood, and my whole livelihood in my head laid in his hands. And I want to tell you something. You are the hero of your own story. You cannot wait for somebody to come and save you. You have to make that decision for yourself. And I had to make that decision for myself. And that's a really hard decision to make. So I just want to send love and light out there to anybody that feels that they're in the same situation right now. Because it can be a very hard thing to do, to walk away or to stand up for yourself when you're in a situation that you feel that someone holds power over you. And I fully felt that he held power over me. Like, it was such, when I look back on it and the way that I spoke to this man, I was such, up until the end, like, I never even popped off on him. I literally, even after all of this stuff transpired, he still would message me every now and then, and I still would be nice to him. I never said anything to him. I finally ended up hitting a point that I blocked his number, which took me a long time to come to that. But I never had a moment where I was like, hey, I know that you fucked me over. And I know that you stole all of this money from me. But I think that I let it go on for too long, that it was just like, I think that the only thing I can do now is just block his number at this point and just like cut him out of my life and not allow that energy to be sapped from me any longer. He was sending me all of these sketchy messages that didn't make sense and were super like cryptic. It was like he was speaking to me in riddles sometimes about everything that was going on behind the scenes. And so he essentially let me know that there was like this agency that I thought owned, but I guess he didn't. And I was about to essentially steal these accounts back and move over to this new agency with him. And then I got a cease and desist in the mail. Like, literally splatted on my door. Like, it was literally like I got served, essentially. That's what it felt like. I mean, I didn't have someone come up to me, but it wasn't a regular mail service. It was literally someone came to my house and put the cease and desist on my door, like taped it to my door in this big fat envelope. And the cease and desist essentially said, hey, this is blah, blah, blah agency. C, your manager, has been stealing money from you. You were supposed to be getting X amount of money, and he was taking X amount of money from you. So essentially, this agency that I thought he owned, that I thought C owned, he didn't own, and it was like a full-blown agency, but he was my manager, and so they sent the money to him, and then he gave me the rest of the money, and he was taking a huge cut of it without them realizing, and without me realizing. Well, I mean, I knew that I was getting money stolen from me, but I didn't know that the whole agency didn't know that I was getting money stolen from me. And so that was like, I think like I remember that moment, and I remember like the synapses in my brain like firing off. Like it was like I had just finally come to the realization of, oh, like he's actually not a good guy. Like I think that I had like gaslit myself into believing that he was a good guy to like make myself feel better about me kissing ass, if that makes sense. Like you make yourself believe that this whole crazy situation makes sense in a way. Like you gaslight yourself into believing, no, like this is what I'm supposed to be like kissing his ass. Like it's fine. Like he's not that bad of a person. Like I'm still getting money at the end of the day. I'm able to pay my rent. I'm able to pay my bills. You make yourself make it make sense, even though it doesn't make fucking sense. Like he's stealing so much money from you. And so that's essentially what the cease and desist said. And it said, we've had no way of getting into contact with you because he has literally like sheltered you and made it so that we had none of your contact information. The only way that we were able to get in contact with you was through your address, which is listed on the website, which was how we were able to send this letter to you. And so I got on the phone. It had a phone number, and I got on the phone with them, and I was like, hey, what the fuck is going on right now? And they were like, yeah, we're this full-blown agency. We have this many people on the team. He does not own the agency. And then I was like, okay, but what about V, the girl who brought me on? And they were like, we have no idea who V is. And I was like, I thought they told me that they own the agency together. Like they said, V said that she was like a co-owner in the agency. And they were like, I've never heard of that name before. And I was like, what the fuck? I end up getting in contact with two other models that also worked for C and were under him specifically, and he was a manager for. And they had the same thing happening to them, except they started more recently, and they started at a way higher pay than I was even at. And let me just remind you, I was the top owning model at that whole entire agency, and I was the least paid. These new models that came in actually advocated for themselves, which I didn't do. And I love that they did. And so they started off getting, I think, 20 grand a month or something like that. I started off getting $4,000 a month. Like I put myself in this box, and he saw that I was in this box, and he took advantage of it, because the only people that ever benefit from people pleasing are the people that will not respect your boundaries and will take that as an opportunity to walk all over you. And that is what happened to me. And I don't shame myself for that. I really don't. I needed to go through that lesson, and you shouldn't shame yourself either. If you are in that situation right now, this is a lesson for you to learn from, and this is a growth point for you. This is a way for you to grow, because sometimes we need these crazy situations to happen, because it's the universe being like, hey, this is an area in which you can grow. I'm going to give you this situation, and then we'll see if you can learn from this. And if you don't learn from this, that's totally fine. Everybody is on their own path and has their own timeline, but the universe is just going to keep bringing situations to you afterwards where you can continue to grow in it. And I saw this like video, I think it was like a reel the other day, and I think that it was from the movie like Noah's Ark, but like the really like Hollywood one where like Morgan Freeman is God. He like said in the reel on Instagram, if you ask to have courage, you're not going to immediately have courage. You're going to be given situations where you have a chance to be courageous. If you ask to stop being a people pleaser, you're not just going to automatically be blessed from the heavens above and stop being a people pleaser. You're going to be given situations where you can stand up for yourself and you can advocate for yourself. And this is what happened to me. And I will say that even after all of this stuff has come to pass, I'm still having situations in my life come up where I have to advocate for myself and I have to set boundaries, especially since we've started traveling, because I had to practice building that backbone in myself. And I still struggle with it. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's just you continuously choosing to stretch out your nervous system and build the capacity for moments where you can stand up for yourself. You have to take your time in building that voice for yourself and in building that advocacy for yourself. So anyway, going back to getting introduced to these models that had gotten started on a way higher pay than me right off the bat, I end up becoming friends with one of these models, and we end up chatting with one another. And her friend's sister happens to be V, this woman that owned the agency, or that I thought owned the agency. And I was like, oh, I forgot to tell you. So I thought that V and C were siblings. I thought that they were brother and sister because he told me that they were brother and sister. And so I get on the phone with V's actual sister, and she says to me, he's not her brother. Like, he's not our sibling. Like, I don't know why they told you that. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, okay, so he's not your brother. She was like, no. And I was like, all right, noted. And this is when I hadn't fully made the decision to switch over from following C to staying with this agency, because I still was just very confused. A lot happened at once and everybody was saying conflicting things, and I just didn't know what to do. But I was talking with them and I realized, okay, he lied about her being his sister. Like, that's just, I think that was my moment. And I know that like all of this other crazier stuff happened where it would have been like, Cameron, that should have been your moment where you're like, okay, I'm not working with him anymore. But it wasn't. It was that moment of, oh, he's lying to me about like really trivial, like, I don't know, that did it for me. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to work with him anymore. I made that decision. I hopped on a phone call with him. I don't know why I didn't just message him, but I just felt like, I don't know, I still was obviously a people pleaser. So I was like, I feel like I owe it to him to have a phone call with him and for not to be over text, which was so stupid now that I'm looking back at it. But I decided to hop on a phone call with him. And of course he was like trying to convince me to stay with him. And like, he was like, you know, this is like really disappointing because like me and B were the ones that like really like started you off on all of this, and like all of your success has come from us, and just like trying to like gaslight me and like guilt me into staying with him. And I was like, I know, but like I still was really people pleasing him because I was scared of him, and I was right to be scared of him, because after I ended up having this call with him and deciding I'm not going to continue working with you, I get off the phone, and then the next morning I wake up and this model, she messages me and she says, V came and broke into the house that we're staying in with, I think it was like a hammer or a bat. It was something. She was holding something and she broke the window and like busted in. She has C on the phone with her, like hyping her up for breaking into the house, and starts like cursing all of them out because I decided to leave. And I was their top earning model that they thought was coming over and transitioning over to this new agency with them. And I decided not to because I found out that he lied about them being siblings. And so she breaks into the house, is cursing them out. Like, it was this whole crazy thing. I just heard about it, you know, through like the grapevine afterwards. And that was like my confirmation from the universe of, Uday, like, you actually kind of made the right decision. Like, that's fucking insane. And even though I knew that they were stealing money from me and all of this crazy stuff, like, I didn't know that they were crazy like that. Like, to break into somebody's house, like, not just like, I'm breaking in, like, open up the door, like, break in. Like, it was really my moment of, these are aggressive people. These are not good people. You should not be working with them. This isn't right. And so it was a good confirmation for me, because I definitely still was nervous after deciding to not continue on with him, because he's who I had worked with for almost 3 years at that point. And I didn't know these other people at the agency that I didn't even know really existed. I thought that it was these other people's agency. And then it's like, no, there's this whole team. I get, introduced into a group chat with everybody, and it's like 6 different people. And anyway, I end up deciding to just stay with that agency, and I end up getting my adequate pay after that. I think with that other agency, I still don't know how ethical all of it was, but I stayed with them because it was safe and I was getting an adequate, proper pay. But then my accountant was like, I get that you're getting this amount and everything, but the history with them, it still may not be the best for you to stay with them and keep all of your eggs in that one, what is that, basket? Yeah, all of your eggs in one basket. I have this girl named B, and she's your age, she's young, she has this agency. Like, I think that it would make more sense for you to move over to that agency instead, and all this money was stolen from you in the past. I am someone that holds grace in my heart for people, and the person that owned the agency that I did end up getting money stolen from because of that manager and everything, he was young. I don't think that he really knew what was going on behind the scenes when this manager was stealing money from me. And I'm still on good terms with him because I don't think that, like, he was trying to fuck girls over, essentially. But again, like, I have no idea what happened behind the scenes. And that's why I decided I think that I should leave. Even though he's been super nice and super respectful, I just, the fact that all of this happened in the first place, it makes me uncomfortable. And I still felt that they owned my accounts and everything. Like, I still felt that I had no agency or no advocacy over all of the accounts that I had. And so I ended up, stealing back my accounts from them when I probably could have just asked for them back, and they probably would have given them back to me. Because they are, from what I've seen, they were pretty ethical when I was with them after that crazy manager left. But I was talking with B, with the new agency, and she was like, it's probably just safest just to steal it back so that they don't mess with anything, because you just never know in that industry. You never know in that industry. It's such an unregulated industry when it comes to agencies. And I feel like not a lot of people talk about it. And I want to talk about it because there are so many young girls that are getting taken advantage of in that industry. And everybody thinks, that world is really changing, and a lot of girls have agency over themselves, and they can make their own content and post it to this website, and it's not like how it was before where you had directors and all of these people that own these girls, and now they can have their own pages that they own. But agencies will always find a way. Men will always find a way to put their hands in the pot. And there are a lot of really predatory agencies out there right now for young influencers that are in that industry. And a lot of those girls that you see that it seems like they're posting their own content and doing all this stuff, they're being managed by an agency. And a lot of the times they're really unethical agencies. And I talk to Bea about it a lot, who owns this agency specifically. And the reason that she created the agency was because she worked for one prior, and she realized how fucked up it was and how young girls were being so taken advantage of. And so she ended up leaving that agency and being like, she said that she was over and she was done with it and she wasn't going to do it anymore. And then a model reached out to her and was like, I just got dropped by this agency. They took all of my content. They took my they say that they own everything. What am I going to do? And so she ended up helping her get it back, and she ended up running that account for her. And then she kind of just started helping girls left and right that were stuck within these predatory holds of these men. And I will say, agencies can be really amazing in that industry because they can be very helpful to you. But if you are out there and it's an agency that is mostly run by men, I would try to find a woman-run agency instead of one that's run by men. Because also, that's a very vulnerable position to be in, especially with the kind of content that you're making. And you're going to feel so much more comfortable and so much more looked after if it's by other women. I know that might be a little bit of a controversial take, but that's just been my own experience, and also the experience of a lot of other girls that I've met that have been taken advantage of by those industries and by those types of agencies. But again, that's a hard thing to do. It's very hard to stick up for yourself or to be like, oh, like maybe I should walk away from this agency. Maybe I should look into, finding something that's a little bit more ethical. Maybe I should talk to my boss, even if it's not in that industry, like even if it's just in a regular schmegular job. Like you so easily can get so trapped in your head of, I cannot stick up for myself. I can't say anything. I have to stay quiet. I have to stay pleasing. I have to stay appeasing, because that has been how women have been treated historically throughout history. Like we have been seen as the peacekeepers of history. We have been ostracized whenever we have decided to speak up for ourselves. Like that is ancestral. And I want you to know that you cannot shit on yourself for being pleasing and appeasing, for going into the fawn response, because that has been ingrained in your DNA from generations and generations of ancestors and women that have been shit on. Literally shit on. We're finally at a point that we can have a voice, that I can sit in front of this camera and tell my story. Like even this is hard and scary for me, because I have fears that people will judge me for all of this and the experience that I went through. And I have fears that I will be cast out for what it was that I did. But we're at a point now where you can have a voice and you can speak up for yourself, but you don't have to do it overnight. You can take small, teeny, tiny baby steps. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, is just practicing standing up for myself in small situations. Literally at Sephora the other day, she was like, do you want to sign up for our loyalty program? I was like, no. She was like, are you sure? Like, it's really great and you get really good goodies and gifts and everything. And if this were like 6 months ago, I would have just been like, okay, because I wouldn't want to say no. You have to practice saying no. And so I've been taking moments like that to be like, no, actually, I'm okay. I don't need to sign up for your loyalty program. Like that can be so hard though. And it's so silly that it's so hard, because we're just so used to saying yes and to pleasing people and to making people feel comfortable, because we don't want to feel uncomfortable. And it can be uncomfortable to try and speak up for yourself in those type of situations, but just starting small, starting at the Sephora checkout, at the TJ Maxx, where they ask if you want to sign up for the loyalty program. Practice saying no then. Practice saying something if somebody brings out a meal that is not what you ordered, or somebody gives you, I got a latte the other day, a matcha latte, and they accidentally gave me like a regular coffee latte. And before I would have just taken it and just shut my mouth and not said anything. But I was like, oh, hey, like I think that it was supposed to be a matcha latte. And like that, I know it sounds so silly and it's so stupid, but it's little things like that of just practicing stop, literally like showing your belly to the world. Like that's how I think about it. I think about it of a dog just like laying down, rolling over, and just like showing its belly up, because it just can't stick up for itself. And sometimes I just feel like I can't stick up for myself, and it's something that I'm really working on and trying to figure out. And I also think that a big, huge piece in that is nervous system regulation. And something that's been really helpful for me in nervous system regulation is dropping into my body and doing a body scan and just seeing how I'm feeling in that moment and taking a sacred pause. So if you are about to send that super pleasing, appeasing, dick-sucking text of you just being the good girl that doesn't want to ruffle any feathers and doesn't want to stand up for herself, don't push yourself to send the boundary-setting text all at once, but sit with yourself and ask yourself, is this my truth? Am I sending this text because I want to make someone else more comfortable, or am I sending it because it's truly how I feel inside? And it can be as simple as that, of just checking in with yourself and feeling the feeling of people pleasing and feeling yourself acting in the opposite direction of what your truth is in that moment, which may be you wanting to stand up for yourself or you wanting to set that boundary. And the first step is just acknowledging that you're people pleasing in that moment. Because when I was people pleasing, especially in that industry, I just would go straight into performance mode. Like I would put on the hat and I would do my little dance, and I just would fully go straight into kissing ass. And I wouldn't take a moment to be like, hey, you're kissing ass right now. I wouldn't take a moment to be like, this is not your truth, because it's just those little moments of you firing those neurons in your brain of, I don't want to be doing this anymore. I don't want to keep people pleasing. I don't want to keep sending these kiss ass texts. And you may take a pause, have that moment for your sacred truth, and then you may still send the text. But that's okay, because you're acknowledging the fact that you're doing it in the first place, and you're acknowledging that you don't want to continue doing that in the future. And I think really just getting in your body and allowing yourself to feel the feeling of what it would also feel like if you did set a boundary, and if you did stand up for yourself or find your voice in a moment where in the past historically you wouldn't have. And just visualizing that. You don't have to do it overnight. You don't have to send that text, after you stop watching this video, but visualize what it would feel like if you were to stand up for yourself. And I will tell you that a lot of the times when you visualize it, your nervous system will be like, what do you mean? Like, you will get that closing in your throat, that tightness in your chest. You will feel the fear. And that's because your nervous system is not used to sticking up for yourself. And that's why you've gone into that response of fawning. And that's why you've decided to people please, because your nervous system doesn't feel safe in that moment. So just visualize feeling it, and then do something grounding afterwards. Go for a grounding walk, dance it off, shake it off, because bring play into it, because it's silly. It's silly that you have to visualize it. It's silly that you can't say no at the Sephora when they ask you to join the loyalty program, or to say that this order is wrong at the restaurant. It's silly. Like, bring play into it and stop trying to make it seem like this big scary thing that you're doing. Visualize practicing saying no, and then go dance around and put on some music and get back into your body. Bring awareness to your body in those moments. See how you're feeling, and then grounding that energy to the best of your ability, and practicing in the little moments saying no. Even if it's just with someone safe. Practice saying no. If you have a safe space, a friend, a partner, a family member, practice saying no, because it's still practice somebody walking up to you and you having to put your hand out physically and create a barrier. It sounds silly, and it's okay for it to be silly, because again, we want to bring play into this, but your mind knows that it's fake, that this isn't a real scenario. But your body, you'll be surprised by how your body feels in that moment, because you may feel that tightness in your chest, your throat closing up. You may feel those butterflies fluttering around in your stomach, because sometimes your body doesn't know that this is just a play pretend scenario. And you have to practice regulating your nervous system and stretching your capacity for those moments where you are sticking up for yourself and you are advocating for yourself. And that can be a really hard thing to do, but that's why it's nice to try and bring play into it as much as possible. Because I just want women to be seen and to be heard. And I want you to find your voice and to find your power. Even though it can seem really, really hard, you don't have to do it overnight. And be silly with it. Be funny, be yourself, and stop putting on this performance for other people. Choose moments of courageous connection. Choose moments where you are not just putting on a performance and being fake and faking a smile. Be courageous with how you connect with people and how you connect with yourself. Stop playing pretend. Okay. So I'm going to end it on that, because I've been yapping for a bit now. But I want to end it with this quote that says, "The wild feminine rises when the people-pleasing maiden is laid to rest." We love her. She had to do what she had to do. In a historical context, she really had to do what she had to do, because there was the fear of being ostracized and being killed when that wild feminine did decide to rise. But we are in a time now that we can play and explore what that wild feminine means to us. And we can also be empathetic and acknowledge why the pleasing maiden existed to begin with. She had to do that in order to survive. But girl, there is so much more in this world for you. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. Again, I feel like sometimes I sound a little bit crazy in these videos, but I hope that all of it made sense and that it resonated and that my story flowed and that I didn't sound like I just was having word vomit all over the place. But again, I'm just getting used to talking in front of the camera at this point, and I had fun, and I hope you did too. All right, bye. I'm gonna throw up.